Hello, and welcome to Heineken's Tech Insights, your podcast from HEINEKEN Kraków. Throughout this podcast, we'll be sharing insights and learnings from some of Heineken's top specialists who are shaping the digital future of Heineken. Join us to meet our experts, gain valuable knowledge, and see how what happens in Kraków goes around the world. I am Mateusz Komander, your host, and I'm excited to introduce our first series, Agile Transformation at Heineken, Insights, Growth, and Learning from the Frontlines. Today, we are diving into a fascinating topic, how an organization as big and renowned as Heineken manages and drives change in Agile adoption. If you are curious about how Agile practices can scale in large, complex environment, or how to navigate the challenges of implementing Agile across diverse teams and departments, this episode is for you. Let's explore what lessons we can learn from our journey. And joining me today for this deep dive is Dorota Sternalska-Wolska, and she's an Agile coach within Heineken. So, hello, Dorota.
Hi.
Nice having you here today.
Hi, nice to be here.
Okay, Dorota. So, maybe before we jump into our main topic, small, let's say, warm-up question. Could you share with us, maybe briefly, what was your path to become an Agile coach and maybe directly an Agile coach in Heineken?
Sure. Yeah, I have technical background, so I started as a software engineer. I was studying electronics, and actually first I was working, developing software. I was working in the team, and we were working in pure waterfall.
Okay.
So I started as a tester in the testing team, and then I was part of beta tests at client side, and I went there to present something, and it was not something that they expected.
Okay.
So it was the first realization, okay, so we are doing something in a wrong way. So we started a discussion, how we can change this. And we discovered Agile and said, okay, so let's start and experiment with first Scrum team. And in first Scrum teams, I was still tester. Okay. And then I started to realize, okay, so I'm good at programming, but I'm also good at process improvements and running meetings, retrospectives, and also seeing bigger picture. So I tried to change my role.
Okay.
And it was also something that my colleagues from the team told me, Dorota, we are really good at programming, so we'll manage. Help us with other things that process are important. So process improvements, gathering requirements.
Okay. So within this first team, Scrum team that you've created, at the beginning you didn't have like a Scrum master or any Agile coach dedicated.
No, it was
sharing this responsibility.
Exactly. This was that was how we designed it.
Okay, and it was up to the team to actually decide. Okay, we may need someone more dedicated to that role. Yeah.
Yes, because then when you share the responsibilities of being tester or programming and Scrum Master, then sometimes you become a bottleneck. And it was the case for me. So I had a technical task, and then it was waiting for me because I had another task, which was Scrum Mastering.
Okay.
So we discussed with a team that dedicated role would be better.
Okay.
And then I became Agile Coach as a developing path from becoming Scrum Master.
Okay. And how long are you currently with Heineken?
With Heineken, it's 3.5 years.
And you were the first, I think, yeah.
One of the first, hired here in hub in Kraków. Okay.
So maybe then going swiftly into our main topic. As you are one of the first Agile coaches within Heineken, could you maybe describe a little bit about the path that Heineken took, or maybe the state the Heineken were when you joined it, and how the Agile journey for Heineken began from your perspective?
I was not here from the start because the Agile journey in Heineken started in 2019 in IT for IT department. So as a preparation for the podcast, I also did some digging into history, asking some colleagues who are still here with us, what was the reason to start Agile transformation? What was the drive that somebody said, yes, this is something that we need and we want to go this way. So it was mostly about being more customer-centric, so being more for the breweries and gathering requirements from them, deliver faster, and also because this is something that market was already doing.
Okay.
And looking from the perspective that this is a highly competitive market and you need a lot of innovation and a lot of new ideas, then Agile was a response to that.
Okay, so I can understand that Heineken rather maybe not necessarily were the pioneers in Agile adoption within that e-commerce industry, or fast-moving goods industry. But it was rather a follow-up, yeah? They were looking for others and they saw, okay, so this is maybe a good path to do.
That's the opportunity. They thought that's the opportunity for us. And as I said, they started for IT department. So this was the whole movement. And they started with experimenting with smaller team portfolio. And then it was expanded to the larger organization.
Okay.
And we're still in the journey.
Yes, that's true. And from what we can see, it's much ahead of us.
I agree.
Okay, so you being here more than 3 years, I do assume that you probably faced some challenges, or maybe many of them. So what was, I don't know, maybe not necessarily the biggest, but the challenge that mostly stuck into your mind? What would be the, within the early adoption of Agile, like what you can recall, what was the most interesting part?
I would say that actually two things. The first one is that this is the first company that I work in that we have so many vendor teams. So it's not that all of the people and all of the teams are part of Heineken, but they are part of another companies. So if you introduce agile ways of working and try to deliver faster with so many companies that are partners for you and they have their own ways of working, this is quite challenging, especially from the also contract perspective and also being more effective as a team and deliver what was committed.
That's true. I can also sometimes see that because we have those vendors, so many vendors and so many third parties supporting us in our endeavor, quite often we see the changes in their staffing because, of course, the person who is leaving that vendor company is not only leaving that company, but also us.
Exactly.
So for us, it's quite often a disruption in how we work.
And I think that we did not think at the beginning that this is a challenge. So we did not address it from the start. So now during this journey, we've learned that yes, this is important to work with partners, with vendors, even more on the ways of working and about standardization, for example, or harmonization of the ways of working across teams. Because many teams work together, they have many dependencies, and if they are not delivering and working as one team with the same ways of working, this is the challenge. And the second one that I remember, or for me, was that it started in IT for IT. Mm-hmm. So a bit business was left behind. So then when to include the business and how to do this together, because as you know, Agile is not something that is IT oriented.
That's true.
It's to help business to deliver faster, more innovative, be more flexible in the changing environment. So this is also something that I think that we need to a bit work on. Yeah,
definitely address something to break those silos is that we sometimes, probably not only in our company, but in others also sometimes exists. Yeah. But I think we actually, maybe not everywhere, but I think in some of the portfolios, there are product owners coming directly from business. So probably that's good.
Bridging the gap.
Building the gap, yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that you've started the journey from one portfolio at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how then from that portfolio? And I assume that in that portfolio you were working rather in maybe small teams, not necessarily scaled framework per se at the beginning. But how does from that one portfolio the road for scaling look like? What was the let's say, the trigger for starting the scaling?
Heineken is a really big company. Yeah. So this is the challenge by itself. Yep. So how to scale? So we developed this concept of portfolios and also maturing the portfolios that or areas actually, because if you are not yet transformed, then this is still department area, not yet portfolio. So when to start working with the new area. And it was in Heineken, it was implemented one by one. So first is IT for IT, then was e-business, and then started with others. And still, there are departments and areas that still need transformation as they are on the start of the journey. And there are portfolios that are already matured more because they started this journey in 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And another aspect that is important here for Heineken is that we also have breweries. So another journey, if you are talking about end-to-end delivery for the customer, then you also need to speak about breweries. And this is also initiatives that is going on.
The brewers, you mean like the companies in specific companies, regions or countries, that we are supporting. Yeah, that's true.
We call them operating companies, So.
But all of that is impossible the transformation itself is impossible without in my mind, without change of mindset, without change of culture within the company. And because you are changing a little bit how the business, how often and how the business is cooperating with IT, how the IT works together with the business, and how often we are deploying items. So how did you work to gain a buy-in from teams and leadership to introduce agile ways of working within the portfolios, within specific areas?
I would say that with teams, as it started from the bottom up, I would say that with teams it's sometimes easier than with leadership.
Okay,
that's my experience. And what's important and how I work is engaging them from the start and engaging them, explaining why. As when you understand why, that it's much easier to go on the journey. And also by showing which problems we are trying to solve. Yeah, because if you look, for example, from the perspective that release of the new product lasts about 2 years or 3 years, and then you start talking, okay, but look from the market even, and our competitors, that it is like they are releasing something every 3-4 months, then it's a trigger. Then you can start the discussion, okay, so what we can do to do the same as our competitors, because we still want to be innovative.
And to not answer to what our competitors are doing within 2 years afterwards.
Yes, exactly. So by, for example, experimentation, with showing the results on a really small piece of work, even with implementing a tooling like Jira, as you know, that this was something that we also did. So when you will show what are the results or what you can get out of it, then it's much easier to engage with teams and also engage with leaders. Yeah,
so showing the value that we are delivering via like the more often deployments or more often releases, via using specific tooling, using specific practices, how they can benefit from that.
Yeah, what I think is that sometimes we as Agile coaches or Scrum Masters, we've been there. Yep. We saw it somewhere. And then it's true. Like we take it as a granted that everyone wants to go there because they know what they can get. Yeah. But that's not true, actually, because if you've never been there, exactly, you don't know what's possible.
You don't know what's possible. And that's quite, that's very eye-opening. That's true, because sometimes I'm working with the assumption that you already should know that because I've already met that 2 or 3 times in my past experience. Yeah.
Yes. So you need to think of experiments and you need to think of really small ideas, how to show what you know, and how to show them that they can also feel the same as you feel about this idea.
So this actually leads quite interestingly into our last question of the first podcast. So how do you measure the success of the Agile initiatives within Heineken? Are there any practices or metrics we have in place that we can show as an examples of those success metrics, and how we can leverage that as a continuous improvement for us?
We used to do Agile maturity assessment for teams and portfolios. And I'm not fan of it. As it's subjective and really practice-oriented.
Okay.
And practice don't always tell you that, if you are agile or not, or if you are progressing with the change.
That's true. Sometimes, sorry if I burst in, but sometimes we hear that, we are having a planning, retro review, and daily, so we are Scrum oriented team. It's not really only about those events that you are having within a team. It's a little bit more around. Yeah,
so I prefer results or some kind of measurable outcomes. And what we started to do in Agile department is introducing OKRs.
Yes.
For the transformation. And what we did as a starting point was that we started to think, okay, so how can we measure that we are progressing? So, for example, shortening the lead time. Yeah, for me, this is the perfect example. Or improving, as we were introducing tooling, improving data quality in tooling. Because if the data is a low quality, then we are not making decisions based on data. And we did that, and I think that it was a good starting point. As we introduced that in the ACE, so in the Agile department, it's just the first step. Because for me, the even next step, and what we realize, is that it would be much better if we have the same OKRs or combined it with business. Then it will become even more powerful using this kind of metric.
So to cascade the OKRs that we are having within the Agile department and combining them with the objectives or OKRs within specific portfolios, how the portfolios can adopt and support at the same time support the adoption of Agile within them.
Yes, because if they want to, for example, introduce new product or something new in OPCO, then we can combine it that we want to do this, for example, in a shorter time. So shortening the lead time, or gathering feedback earlier, or including the feedback, in the next increment of the product. So this kind of metrics.
Okay.
So these are plans for next year.
These are plans for next year. Oh, maybe this year.
Maybe this
year. So just to maybe quickly summarize. So as we know, we started the Agile transformation in 2019, and you gladly joined us 3 years ago, supporting the Agile in the meantime. There were some challenges, but mostly to address those challenges, we are trying to present the value of the changes to the business, to the customers, and at the same time, throughout the OKRs, we are trying to lead the adoption of the Agile approach, not only within the ACE department or Agile department for Heineken, but also within the portfolios. Okay, so Dorota, maybe before we wrap up, could you leave our listeners with just one key learning point about Agile adoption? Then, from your perspective, what would you say? What is the key learning point for you from Agile adoption in Heineken?
If you start with teams as ways of working and changing their environment, don't forget about changing mindset of leadership at the same time.
Okay, so working not only teams but changing mindset.
Yeah, so this needs to be combined. So if we're speaking about harmonizing ways of working, autonomy for teams is important. But also looking from the organizational perspective, that teams work in some kind of organization environment.
Yep.
We need to think about harmonizing ways of working with leaders and including, as I said before, these external partners, vendors, that would give us the full picture then and the full scope of work for transformation.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And one more time, to briefly summarize, throughout this episode, we explored some truly fascinating aspects of Heineken's Agile journey. We looked at how the initial motivations for Agile stemmed from the need for greater adaptability and collaboration, and we discussed some of the early challenges that helped. We also touched on the cultural shift required to make Agile a success, and from gaining team and leadership buy-in to fostering an environment of continuous improvement. To stay connected, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and follow Heineken Global Shared Services on LinkedIn. And remember, here at Heineken, we are always looking for rising stars who are ready to make an impact. If you are interested in joining us, you can explore our open positions at HEINEKENKraków.pl. We'll be back with more insights from Heineken's agile and digital transformation journey, showing how what happens in Krakow goes around the world. Join us next time to keep learning, growing, and adapting.